I am ending my 13-year relationship with my husband. Is this behavior abusive? I feel so lost. I'm 34. My spouse is 44. We met when I was 21. I don't even know where to start. I'm ending my relationship of 13 years. We've been living together since 2012. We got married in 2019. I finally saw how awful he was treating me, and I think the relationship was unhealthy, bordering on abusive. We met online and initiated a long-distance relationship from 2011 to 2012. I was in college, he was serving in the military. I rented an apartment when I graduated, and I applied to college programs near me on his behalf so he could use his GI Bill. He moved in, was accepted to school. For 4 years he received a hefty living stipend because of the GI Bill. During this time I got a job as a recruiting assistant and earned $40K. We stopped having any physical intimacy 7 years ago. I told him this was a big missing piece for me, and he had lots of reasons. I'm not interested, I'm too tired, I don't like, and it never felt good. Otherwise I was pretty happy in our relationship. We shared a lot of common interests, including spirituality, video games, esoteric stuff, etc. We laughed a lot and had a ton of fun. I told myself I didn't care about, but in hindsight I was suppressing a lot of needs and desires in order to make my relationship work. 2020 is where it started going off the rails, I think. I had an opportunity to take a promotion. If I accepted the promotion I would need to move 900 miles to Florida. My husband has always been an advocate of my career and was supportive. We deliberated for a long time because it meant he would need to leave his low-paying job of $32K/year. He disliked the job he was in, but was really just trying to stick it out because he would get a pension at the 5-year mark. My earning potential was much greater than his because I'd found early success in my career. After doing the math we decided to make the jump. So we moved to Florida in February 2020, I increased my income from $75K to $92K with the promotion. The day we landed in Florida everything shut down for COVID. I also learned that we lost a key client, so my employment would be ending in 6 months. He found a job with the state of Florida 2 months after he arrived, low paying, earning $28K/year. I busted my ass to find another job. Somehow I found one and managed to increase my income through the job change from $92K to $125K. During this time I fell into a very deep depression and started experiencing suicidal thoughts for the first time ever. I missed my friends and family and felt totally isolated. He suggested we move home. I felt so guilty about him having to leave another stable job for me, but he said it was fine. He'd always wanted to have a business running paid Dungeons and Dragons games online, and I encouraged him to do this because it was his longtime dream. We didn't need his income and this was a job he could pick up and take with him. We did the math again and he created a plan that he thought would earn him around $25K, $30K. This is where it starts to go south, I think. We moved back home, eventually bought an amazing condo on the river. We used his 0% down VA loan to do this. We put a $40K down payment down, which I had saved on my own over 4 years. After we bought the house, the weight of the financial responsibility took its toll on me. After moving home, I was promoted again, this time bringing my single income to over $200K, total comp. His income was irrelevant at this point and his business started to slow down to where he was maybe contributing $10K annually from his games plus his $400/MO disability payment from the VA. While his income declined, he became less and less motivated to do anything. He would wake at 10, walk the dogs, go back to sleep or lounge on the couch the entire day while I worked. He barely lifted a finger and our home began to look like a crack house because of how dirty/messy/cluttered it was. He wasn't caring for the house, wasn't cooking. We ordered food out every night and spent close to $35K on food in 12 months. I started to break down at this point and started begging him to contribute more. The stress of my career was extreme, and there were days I was working 12-13 hours. I started to resent him and I told him so, that I was worried about our relationship and that I was very unhappy. We talked about this a few times and he said I didn't love him and only valued him for what he could contribute. This gutted me, the idea of me being someone who only valued someone for their money, so I tried to look past it. He did pick up a few chores, walking the dogs, taking the trash out, cooking. For lunch he would make me eggs every day and for dinner, a hamburger. Before this he tried other dishes. He would make 3 days worth of chili, canned tomatoes, black beans, salsa, ground beef, in a crock pot for us to eat for lunch and dinner every day. He did the same thing with beef and potato stew. I told him I didn't like the chili for 3 days in a row because it gave me diarrhea and that the beef was too tough after 2 days. He started making hamburgers for dinner every day, and when I asked for variety he told me he couldn't give me any variety because I was too picky even though I shared recipes we would like. He said these would take him too much time. So for a year we ate hamburgers every night. In March 2023 I asked him to go to a music festival with me to see my all-time favorite band. He came with me to the festival. The band was playing at 9 p.m. on Friday night. We got there around 3 p.m. to shop, eat, see other acts. At about 4:30 p.m. it started pouring and the music was put on hold. He started yelling at me about how bored he was and why would I ever ask him to go to an event hours before the main act. I told him I just wanted to hear the music, and then he felt bad and bought me a cozy sweatshirt, with my own money, to make up for how much he upset me. Fast forward to the following evening. After the festival I had made arrangements to meet up with some friends I met while gaming last summer. We went to dinner. As the check came my husband asked if we were going back to the hotel. I said yes, but then my friend invited us back to his house. I turned to my husband and asked if we could go. I could see I had pissed him off. On the way over to my friend's house he berated me for 20 minutes about how I'd bait and switched him and how selfish I was for changing the plan after he had already set his mind towards returning to the hotel. Inside my friend's house he was charming and engaging and everyone loved him. They asked why I was so upset. I couldn't explain. I thought it was wrong of me to change the plan on him, so I accepted his behavior. The next morning I told him how much he hurt me with his words and how scared I get when he berates me. He said he isn't berating me, just the situation, and that I should just let him vent because it's not good for him to keep it inside. I said okay, I'd try to manage it differently next time so as not to catch him off guard. Since then things have gotten progressively worse. He stopped showering for days at a time, barely left the couch, so I asked him to look for a job at least 3 times because I didn't feel he was contributing. He told me my expectations were too high and that he was contributing plenty and pointed out all the things he did. They included these and only these: walking the dogs in the morning and afternoon, ordering groceries from Instacart, taking out the trash once a week, cooking me eggs for lunch most days, cooking a burger for dinner. When needed he would go to the store and pick up prescriptions. 3 to 4 times a week he would run a paid D&D game, 3.5 hours a game. At all other times he would sleep, lounge, or play video games. The last 2 times we've talked about going back to work he said that I had created the situation that we're in by relocating, that I have taken everything from him, referring to the jobs he'd left, and that I was asking for too much of him. Last weekend our terminally ill dog, he has lymphoma, got very sick. I was out and he texted me that Lance threw up. I asked him to watch him. When I got home I asked if Lance had drunk any water. He said obviously he drank water because he threw up. If he didn't drink water there would be nothing to throw up. That night at 2 a.m. Lance continued throwing up, had diarrhea all over me, the floor, himself. I woke my husband up to tell him. He said okay, are you handling it? And went back to sleep. I showered, gave the dog a bath, and cleaned the floor and went to bed. Lance was barely moving the next morning when I woke at 8 a.m. so I woke my husband again to tell him I was taking Lance to the emergency vet. I asked him to come. He rolled over. I reminded him that he made me go to the emergency vet for our previous terminally ill dog alone, and that he promised her would never leave me alone at the emergency vet again with a terminally ill pet. He looked at me and said, "I'm going back to sleep." That was the last straw. I took Lance to the vet, went home, packed a bag, got my other not sick dog, and my work essentials and told him I needed time to figure out what I wanted to do, that I felt unsupported, that I was unhappy. I left for my parents. The vet called the next day. Lance got gotten into chocolate and that's the reason he was so ill. I shared the news with my husband. The next day, our other non-sick dog was really not adjusting well to the change of location, so I asked my husband to keep him at the house with him. My husband picked up the dog, and then texted me that this dog had now also gotten into the same bag of chocolate, and he didn't realize the dog was going to go for it. I decided that night I likely wanted a divorce because I couldn't handle his lack of responsibility any longer, but first I wanted to try to have one more conversation to see if we could fix this. We went to lunch yesterday and I outlined for him what I needed him to do in order for this relationship to have a chance. I told him he needs to take care of his mental health, he needs to really own managing the house and food like it is his job or go to work because I can't stand seeing him lounge all day while I bust my ass to cover all the bills and financially support him. He responded by telling me again that this situation is all my fault, I created it, I'd taken everything from him, and then the final dagger. So I am getting divorced finally. I've had this nagging in my stomach I've been trying to ignore for 5 years. I've been having panic attacks trying to ignore it, I think. I never thought I was going to be able to leave. I was trapped in my own mind and too scared, but I've done it, at last. I needed to write this to process, but upon reflection it seems like I may have been stuck in a cycle of guilt and abuse. Comment. Take some time to be sad and feel all the things you're feeling right now, then take a deep breath and enjoy life again. You are still young and have the best years of your life ahead of you. There are lots of good men in this world who would love to be a partner to a good woman. My husband is the same age as your husband and he works hard every day, loves working hard. He makes a very good salary and works lots of overtime by choice. We aren't struggling financially, and still constantly asks what he can do to help me, to take some of the load off of me. I know you feel, right this minute, like your life is over, but it's just beginning. You take what you've learned and make sure you never settle for that kind of treatment ever again. You will be okay. Much love and best wishes. I'm sorry you've gone through such a bad situation. Have you told him yet? I'm guessing no. Wait till you see what happens when you do. You're in for a shock. Believe it or not, he has no idea you are this far gone. Good luck to both of you. You didn't let anything get like this, sweets. He made active choices to be a shitass. You are not at fault for someone else's actions. You have been trying to survive him. That's all. The shame and embarrassment is textbook for victims of this kind of abuse, my angel. It is to be expected because you feel like you somehow could have changed the outcome. Or that you should have seen the signs. Like, if abusers were upfront with how abusive they were 100% of the time, nobody would ever end up in abusive relationships. This is not your fault. You are valid, valued and loved. Nothing he has done can ever take away from your worth. You are a goddamn treasure. A mistake? Ma'am. You're seeing yourself as worth more finally. You've settled for garbage treatment for so long. At a certain point, you have to respect yourself and move on. 'Cause you know what'll happen if you don't? Nothing will happen. And another 10 years will fly by. You said yourself this was abusive. And from the context of the text, it was the worse. Helping you believe you're the problem. And, you've been the one to be the head of the house for almost the whole time. Yes, congratulations, you're seeing this relationship for what it has been for years. Years. I know it's painful, but now is the time to spread your wings, move forward. Grow. Evolve. The word is your oyster.